So, what if the world's major religions weren't just systems of belief, but something a lot more active? That's the provocative idea we're digging into today, based on our source material, the concept that Abrahamic religions can act like a self-replicating ideological weapon. Now, that's a huge, challenging idea, and to even begin to understand it, we've got to start with one very strange and very violent story from the Bible.
All right, picture this. The Ark of the Covenant, this incredibly sacred, powerful object, is being moved. All of a sudden, the oxen pulling the cart stumble. A man named Uzzah does what any of us would do. He instinctively reaches out to stop the ark from falling. He's just trying to help, right? And for that simple act, God strikes him dead, right there, on the spot.
And here's the crucial twist in the story. The narrative doesn't pause to ask, hey, was that fair? Was that just? Nope. Instead, it focuses on King David's reaction, which is just pure terror. He doesn't question the morality of it. He asks, how can I possibly be near this kind of power? And that question reframes everything. This isn't about our human sense of ethics. It's about the terrifying, absolute nature of the sacred. So that story about the Ark, it becomes the key to this entire argument. The Ark isn't just a holy box. In this view, it's a prototype. It's a model for a kind of power that is absolute, that is lethal, and that operates completely outside of our normal human ideas of justice. So what does it mean when an entire belief system is built around a power like that?
Well, that brings us to this core definition. An ideological weapon, according to the source, isn't like a bomb that just explodes once and it's over. It's a system. It's a set of ideas encoded in stories we see as sacred that can be passed down for centuries, even millennia. It adapts, it mutates, and its potential to spark massive conflict, well, that never really goes away.
So, how does a weapon like this actually work? What's the engine that makes it go? To get that, we need to look at the fundamental logic that separates these sacred ideologies from pretty much everything else.
And this slide really breaks it down. See, on one side, you've got secular ideologies. These are things based on evidence. You can debate them, you can test them, and if they're wrong, you can revise them or just throw them out. But on the other side, you have sacred ideology. When the core premise is God commands it, well, the conversation's over. It's not a debate anymore, it's an order. The authority is total.
And this is the critical takeaway. When an action is framed as simply obeying God's will, it completely sidesteps our normal moral compass. The argument is that this structure can literally engineer the psychological friction out of violence. That little voice in your head that asks, is this right? Should I be doing this? It gets replaced by a much, much simpler thought. I'm only obeying orders.
Okay, so that's the theory. It's a powerful idea, but does it actually show up in the real world? Well, let's take a look at 3 quick case studies from the Abrahamic traditions to see how this code, this unchallengeable command, has actually played out in history.
First up, we go back to the Hebrew Bible and this concept of Hurim, or the sacred band. In texts like the book of Joshua, you find these shocking commands for the complete and total annihilation of the peoples of Canaan. Now, this isn't framed as a political move or a military strategy. It's presented as a religious duty, a direct fulfillment of God's will.
Next, Christianity. And here you see this incredible transformation. I mean, how does a religion that started with turn the other cheek become the official ideology of the Roman Empire? The analysis here points to things like the Crusades, where violence was totally reframed. All of a sudden, killing in the Holy Land wasn't a sin you had to atone for, it was a righteous act, a holy pilgrimage that could earn you salvation.
And finally, we turn to Islam. Here, the argument is that religious and political power were fused together right from the very beginning. The Prophet Muhammad wasn't just a spiritual guide, he was also a head of state, a legislator, and a military commander. This means that the framework for sacred law to directly govern warfare and politics was essentially baked into the tradition's DNA from its inception.
So we've seen the what, and we've seen the how, but that leaves us with the biggest question of all. Why? Why is this structure so unbelievably effective? What is it about this logic that can mobilize millions of people across centuries? To answer that, we have to dive into the psychology of belief itself.
You're looking at an incredible psychological judo flip. Think about it. If you truly deeply believe that this short, messy life is just a test, a prelude to an eternal, perfect reward in paradise, then the entire equation of risk and reward just gets turned on its head. Suddenly, dying for a divine cause isn't the ultimate loss, it's the ultimate trade-up.
The fear of death is inverted. Martyrdom literally becomes victory.
And it gets even deeper than that, right down to our sense of identity. For so many people, religion isn't just a private belief you hold. It's fused with your family, your community, your ethnicity. It's who you are. And when that happens, an attack on your faith isn't just an intellectual disagreement. It feels like an existential threat to you and everyone you love. When the stakes are survival, compromise and negotiation become almost impossible.
All right, this all brings us to our final section, and honestly, it's the most complex part of the puzzle. This is where the whole argument lands on this profound paradox, a core tension inside these traditions that serves as a powerful and final warning. Just look at this. This slide lays out the paradox at the heart of this whole analysis. The very same traditions that gave the world prophets demanding social justice also gave us holy wars. The faith that produced the radical ethics of the Sermon on the Mount also produced the Inquisition. The point being made here is that these religions have been, at the exact same time, profound sources of moral good and incredibly powerful engines of violence. They are both.
And this is a really, really important clarification. The argument here isn't that one version is the true religion and the other is just a distortion or a hijacking. It's that the potential for both incredible peace and incredible violence is woven into the very fabric of the traditions themselves. Both the compassionate interpretation and the violent one can find genuine, legitimate roots in the same sacred texts. The potential for both is always there.
And so we end right back where we started, with the Ark of the Covenant. Remember, it had to be carried with long poles to keep a safe distance, because the power inside was real and it was unbelievably dangerous. The final thought from the source is this: the power of sacred authority is just as real and just as dangerous. Those poles, that caution, that wisdom, that critical distance, they exist for a reason. The only question left is, have we learned how to use them?